At the Shinhoa's base, Jiyoung is sitting in her office. She asks, the location for the fight is at the Frame's base? Gu nods and replies, yes. That's the message from Duke. Since Duke betrayed the World Awakeners Academy and caused massive damage to his family, he won't be able to come outside for a while. Jiyoung gets more worried after hearing his answer and asks, does Jiwoo know about this? Gu quickly replies, yes, Jiwoo is fully aware of the situation. The scene shifts to Jiwoo's home, where Pluton says, as expected, they're being sneaky about this. Jiwoo looks a bit worried too, and he asks, is it common to get an invitation to fight the opponent in their base? Kayden joins the discussion and says, no, they usually fight in places considered neutral. Kayden is very calm and proudly says, I always visited them, so it's not an issue. Kayden yells, that's because you're reckless. Also, you were never invited. So, what you always did was raid them. While they're talking, Blues is tired of non-stop cleaning, but still doing his best at cleaning cat fur and dirt scattered around the room. Jiwoo says, from what I've heard, Duke's side isn't entirely wrong. I've been there before, so it should be fine, right? Kayden shakes his head. The situation is different now. Back then, there were other awakened rookies, and your presence wasn't as important. But now you're their main target. They're determined to defeat you, not just to win the challenge, but also to take revenge. Pluton warns, even if you win, you might end up in a dangerous situation. They could try to eliminate you beforehand to silence you, or remove a potential threat. Jiwoo thinks about Supri and her disciple and says, those two didn't seem so bad. Kayden responds, those two can turn on you at any time. There are no guarantees, and you shouldn't trust anyone. Jiwoo smiles and says, but I trust all three of you. Hearing this, the three of them become attentive, looking at Jiwoo with their full open eyes. Kayden coughs to break the moment and says, anyway, it's too dangerous. We'll follow you in our animal forms, but if the other two from the top 10 show up, it'll be tough for us. Plus, Kayden's isn't fully recovered yet. Kayden lets out an evil laugh and says, true strength is about rising above a crisis. Kayden, kicking him in the face, shouts, then go there alone and handle that kind of nonsense on your own. Pluton adds, it's a tricky situation. Honestly, I think it's best to refuse. It's too dangerous. Jiwoo looks sad but agrees, saying, all right, I'll give up. Suddenly, everyone gets shocked to hear a voice saying, I'll go with you. Everyone turns and are surprised to see Gestella. Kayden asks, Gestella, you want to go with us? Gestella replies firmly, that's right. I want to go with you. Kayden stares at her and says, you've always stayed holed up in your usual spot. Are you really going to travel all the way to Frame? Gestella glares at Kayden, and they both make a strong eye contact. Her assistant asks her, are you all right? Gestella gives her a death stare and replies, what do you mean by all right? Her assistant gets quiet and understands that Lady Gestella wants to go to support Kayden. Then, she tries to convince everyone by whispering, Lady Gestella is right. Blues senses the shift and keeps blushing while looking at Lady Gestella with admiration in his eyes. Kayden nods. There's no reason to say no. Even though it's enemy territory, with Gestella and the three of us, we can handle the top 10 if they show up. Pluton agrees. Kayden might not be in great shape, but it's better than not having him. If things get dangerous, we can throw him at them and evacuate Jiwoo. Jiwoo emotionally turns to Gestella, with tears of happiness in his eyes, and says, thank you. But Gestella replies bluntly, you don't have to thank me. It would be troublesome if your master goes out in a state like that and died. Jiwoo is speechless, while Kayden wants to ask, what's about my state? Gestella again makes another strong eye contact with Kayden and leaves the room. While she's leaving, the group gets excited and says, well, it's settled, isn't it? Let's beat them all up. We should focus on practicing from now on. Gestella, overhearing them, smiles slightly and says, getting all excited so quickly. Blues, peeking at her from behind, thinks, wait, did she just smile? The scene shifts to Frame's base. Schneider asks, he agreed to come here? Royst replies, yes, master. I received an official notification just a while ago. Schneider chuckles. What an interesting guy. He must know the situation has changed since then, but he still made the decision to come here. I knew Kayden took on a disciple very late, and I always wondered why he took him. It seems it's not just about talent. Hearing his master praise Jiwoo, Duke feels irritated and a bit angry. The scene shifts to the basement of Jiwoo's house. After a tough training session, Jiwoo is lying on the floor, catching his breath. Kayden walks in and says, listen while resting. I'm going to teach you something new. Jiwoo, who is still breathing heavily, asks, something new? What is it? Kayden smirks and says, you need to learn one of my specialties, an emission-based skill. Jiwoo is speechless. Kayden has already taught him so much, and he feels deeply grateful for his mentor's guidance. And the chapter 329 ends here. If you want to stay updated with the latest Eleceed chapters and similar exciting content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.